We're gonna take a trip right now. Like we always do about this time.
This is a journey into sound. Break it down.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. I'm excited to share that Cultural Manifesto can now be heard across Northwest Indiana in cities including Gary, Hammond, Merrillville, Crown Point, Munster, East Chicago, Michigan City, Highland, Whiting, and many others. You can listen to Cultural Manifesto every Wednesday evening at 8 and Saturday afternoons at 3 on 89.1. Over the years, I've dedicated significant coverage to the Northwest Indiana music scene, covering legendary soul singers like Kelly Patterson and Denise Williams, Latin music pioneers like Santos Candelaria, and record label owners like Vivian Carter and Bud Pressner. To celebrate Cultural Manifesto's arrival on the airwaves of Northwest Indiana, I'll be sharing my conversations with two of the region's most critically acclaimed musicians. On the first half of the show, we'll listen to my 2024 conversation with the Hobart, Indiana singer, songwriter, and actor, Omar Apollo.
On top of being queer and on top of being Mexican, it was like, oh, where are you from? Where, you know, and I'm just like, I'm from here. They're like, no, where are you really from? And I'm like, I'm from here. I'm American. I was born in America. But, you know, obviously my parents are from Jalisco.
And on the second half of the broadcast, we'll revisit my 2025 interview with the Gary, Indiana electronic music producer and composer, Jlin.
When I was in high school, I used to use math as an escape. I could just go in my own mind and just kind of hide there with math, and it gave me peace. Music became the same thing when I was in college, when I was at Purdue.
Born in Hobart, Indiana in 1997, Omar Apollo is a Grammy-nominated Mexican-American singer-songwriter whose music blends R&B, pop, funk, and Latin influences. His 2022 debut album, Ivory, earned widespread critical praise. Ivory charted on the Billboard 200 and secured Omar's nomination for Best New Artist at the 65th Grammy Awards. I spoke with Omar after the release of his second album, God Said No. In our wide-ranging conversation, Omar reflected on his roots in Indiana and the pressures he faced growing up gay and Latino in the Midwest. Let's listen back to an excerpt from our conversation.
Evergreen, he tears me to pieces. Doesn't even have to try. She don't know you like me.
Omar, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I mean, I appreciate it for you even getting on and we get to do this.
A lot of my work as a music journalist involves researching the history of music and arts in Indiana. And there's an incredible lineage of soul and R&B music here, including icons like Babyface, Michael Jackson, Janet Jackson, tons of lesser-known names, Timmy Thomas, Sonny Charles.
Babyface is from Indiana?
He's from Indianapolis. Yeah, he comes back here all the time.
He's from Naptown?
He is. Yeah, he grew up, he was singing in bands as a teenager here and has real deep roots. His family's still here.
That's crazy. I just like sang a song that he wrote.
No kidding. Which one?
It's not out. It's some.
Okay, got it. Do you feel connected to that lineage of history here, or maybe not? Maybe it's something you...
I do, yeah. Well, I grew up 5 minutes down the street from Michael Jackson's house on Jackson Street. So Gary, Indiana is like super, super close. And also all of the musicians coming out of Gary and like I think it was called the Jlin circuit.
Jlin circuit, yeah, right.
Yeah, I knew all about that from this guy who would come into Guitar Center all the time. He would tell me about it and how jazz started over there. And And then I would work when I was working at Guitar Center. They'd come in and I'd jam with everybody, all the players, from like R&B to soul to rock to whatever. And that's how I like kind of picked up on, I guess, the areas like I guess taste. I learned so much. I learned all about chords, and I was teaching them what I would find too, and it was like an even exchange, and they'd come in and be like, Omar, like, come on, let's go play, and I'd go back there and I'd jam, hop on a bass or hop on a guitar, and they'd hop on the bass, and so yeah, like I know that, and I also know like, you know, that James Dean's from Indiana. We have a lot of cool people. We got a lot of good, yeah.
There's a book about, it's called The Road to Rock and Roll, The Birth of the Chitlin Circuit, and it's about a R&B promoter from Indianapolis who developed the Chitlin Circuit, if you ever want to dive into that history. Yeah.
I mean, tell me about it. Who are the more lesser known guys?
Oh, from Indiana? I mean, have you ever heard Timmy Thomas? Why Can't We Live Together from Evansville? Drake sampled it in Hotline Bling. Denise Williams.
Oh, Denise Williams, of course.
Yeah.
Her grandson was driving me around in Vegas. He was like a driver. He's like, yeah, my grandma's in the music industry. I'm like, who's your? Oh no, it was his mom. He's like, and then he said it was Denise Williams. I love Denise Williams, and that's like right by me, like literally right next. Denise Williams is the
Let me give you one recommendation, if you don't mind. Here in Indianapolis, there was a vocal group in the 60s called the Vanguards, and they recorded a song called Somebody Please, which has become massive in the Chicano oldies movement in L.A. People do it in Spanish. It's like the most beautiful, heartbreaking ballad ever. Somebody Please. It's like one of those slow burn R&B ballads. The Vanguards. Check it out. You'll love it. It's been sampled by a lot of Chicano rappers, too.
I know the song.
Yeah. All right. Oh my God, I can't believe you're singing this.
Somebody please give me just a minute to explain.
I love that you know that, man. That's amazing. But yeah, rich history here. And you're a part of that, in my view. Do you feel connected to the Michael Jacksons and Babyfaces of Indiana?
Just because I'm in the area, like, but I don't see myself as like, you know, oh yeah, like, you know, like, but I'm sure that like it had a huge influence on like why I am doing music, you know? Like, I'm like, dang, Michael Jackson was from down the street. Like, what? Literally down the street? I could walk to his house in 3 minutes. So, I mean, that was like a big thing for me. And I grew up playing in the church, playing guitar in the church, and sang a little bit, not really. I sang mostly when I got out of high school. And then I really started to train my voice and learn how to use it, but and developed it and things like that. I started recording my own songs in the winter, like in the garage, like, you know, you can see my breath when I'm recording, like it's freezing in Indiana. So yeah, it's just I feel really connected to the area. Yeah, and I was actually like thinking about moving back, so I'm just like, you know, going through that right now.
Do it. There's a big scene growing here. There's like an emerging scene here.
No, yeah, my friends got their ears to the streets. They're telling me like that ever since you left, everyone's been on it. I'm like, for real? And then so I'm just like, that's cool, you know, because there was nothing when I was there.
I was going to ask that. Was there any kind of scene in Hobart that you felt connected to or in that region as a teenager? Was there anything you could kind of be a part of?
There was just literally my friends, and then a little bit of friends from Indianapolis that we met like on Twitter who were like on the same kind of like art kind of thing. They weren't making music. They're more photographers and creatives. And then I was up north by Gary and stuff making music. There was a few people in Gary I made music with. And then a few people down the street I make some music with. And we were all kind of like, you know, on the same shit. And then people from Chicago started to come to my house because they were like, whoa, like there's some shit going on over here, you know? Or like, and I was engineering people. I was just recording them. They'd be like, "Can you engineer me?" Like, blah, blah. I was like, "Yeah, come through." Wouldn't even charge them. And then like it just started like this little thing, and then we would do like basement shows. Draco McCoy.
Oh wow, I know him.
I have a song with him from like 2018 or something.
You right here, and you perfect. You know I'm worthless and deserve this, but you're right here. You twerking, girl, your body language moving in cursive. Mommy, I know you probably just like me because you don't know me. Johnny, I know the Molly get high. I'm also rolling with the moonlight shining. Our hearts get stolen.
But yeah, we were just on that. I mean, I just knew that I had to hit the road. Like I had to go on the road to actually gain some sort of like a core fan base to succeed in what I wanted to do. But yeah, I really want to go back. I mean, I miss it, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful state. There's a lot to love about it and admire about it. I mean, Lake Michigan is right there, and all the green and the fields, and my brother lives in the country, like, a little bit more southern Indiana. So yeah, it's always been like a dream of mine for sure. And the ridiculous amount of family I have there is crazy.
Past life, oh past life, have we been here before? Last night was the last night that I tried to ignore. I'm so tired of climbing. I can't let go.
Indiana is a great place. It's a complicated place. You've talked a lot about how the conservatism of Indiana negatively affected you as a young person. It struck me that in your teenage years, that overlapped with Mike Pence's time as governor here. In 2015, Mike Pence passed the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which many critics called a legalization of discrimination against lesbians, gays, trans, queer people. You were 18, I believe, when that passed. How did that conservative aspect of life and culture in Indiana shape your life as a young person?
I mean, I definitely had like this paranoia of not being able to be myself in that area. And it is crazy. I remember seeing Mike Pence signs everywhere. But at the same time, I had like 25 friends with me at all times. And they were like, we were always just like, I was just like posseed up, like, because it was a scene, and I always did, I did receive a lot of like, from my old friends and things, and people that were close to me, they would tell me and be like, this person thinks it's weird that we hang out or boom or whatever. Like, it's like, does he try to touch you or does he try to, it's like, yo, you've known this guy for like 10 years. He's never touched you. I don't think he wants to touch you. So it's just kind of like, like, and then I remember being like, on top of being queer and on top of being Mexican, it was, out here, I don't really stand out, like as a Mexican, like, but out there it was like, oh, like, where are you from? Where, and I'm just like, I'm from here. They're like, no, where are you really from? And I'm like, I'm from here. I'm American. I was born in America. But, obviously my parents are from Jalisco, and, they're from Zapopan and Guadalajara. But, yeah, I just like grew up with, those kinds of tropes. And honestly, there was a lot of racism, especially to my parents. I mean, I could speak English like fluently, but if you had like a little bit of an accent, or, you know, you could tell you weren't from there. Like, I remember being like 9 years old and somebody yelling at my mom for not understanding about like a credit card, like a credit or debit or something. And this guy is just like, there should be two lines, one for people who actually speak English or whatever. And then I was just like, I remember I was a little ass kid and I was just like, screamed at him in the way that I knew how at that age. And like another mom came and grabbed me like, oh my God, stop it. Like, you know, like, but, you know, growing up, I had to translate. I had to, you know, I helped my parents get their citizenship and with their tests and everything, you know. And like, oh, like, can you read this mail for me? What does it say? Can you, you know, all the things of the house. And so there was like a lot of, you know, tiny nuanced things I had to deal with being, you know, Mexican, but also like from a religious family, and then dealing with being queer is like really complex. There's a lot of layers to it, but ultimately I just wanted to make music. I don't really care. I mean, this is just how I am. I can't change it. So I'm not intimidated or anything like that. And also I was on the internet a lot. So I kind of saw that other, you know, queer artists were emerging from their place, and they were talking about the same struggles I was having. So, and that was what was, you know, helping them almost, their narrative and their true story. And so I just like, you know, in the beginning, I didn't really mention it much because of that reason. Because I felt a little unsafe, and I hate feeling unsafe, and I love feeling safe. So, I definitely waited a bit to be a little more like, you know, go to a big city and, you know, where it's like normal. But yeah, it's definitely like, I remember getting like all these looks, and yeah, it's still like, yeah, I remember like walking around the bars and in downtown like Hobart, and my friends being, I'm like, oh, let's go to this one. They're like, I don't know if we should go to that one. And I was like, why? They're like, that's like it's like a biker one. and I was just like, oh, okay, all right. So we wouldn't go there. But I mean, it was cool. And now, I mean, there's tons of queer kids in Indiana, and I'm glad that they can feel safe, and you know, and if they don't, then I hope that it changes soon. But I think a lot of things are changing. A lot of things. I mean, that was like 2017 that I was really, really, really in Indiana. So to 2018 too, but 2019 I was everywhere. I was like, yeah, I'm out. But I would come back and visit, but I would just see family.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all that. And you mentioned your parents are from Jalisco. I think they're from Guadalajara. I'm interested in the ways their taste in music influenced you. You just recently recorded a corrido version of Sabrina Carpenter's Please, Please, Please. And you've referenced corrido music a lot in your work. Tell me about the influence of corridos and Mexican regional music on your songwriting and music making.
It's actually funny. I have like a very specific influence because my parents only showed me like a certain region of music. So I didn't get any of like the norteñas or like just like, yeah, I don't know, I didn't get like all of it. I guess like if I were to compare it, I didn't get like funk, jazz, doo-wop, R&B, soul. Like I just got funk. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how it was. Like so I didn't understand, even though they all kind of like have elements and, you know, influenced by each other. Like I just got like one side of the Mexican music, which was like the very traditional, very classical, very Pedro Infantes, very like Frank Sinatra, big romantic songs, and like with like a lot of string arrangements and things like that. So my influence for corridos was always like this kind of like old school. Like my uncle would come with a guitar and just play at anywhere we were at, we were there drinking, and he would just play boom, 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 and it was just that rhythm the whole time. It was only songs with those rhythms, and so that's what I picked up on. And then aside from that, I was American, so I was experiencing all of the American culture and hip hop and rap and R&B, soul. Not so much country. I don't think I was South enough for that. But everything else I was like being exposed to. And so having the two, culture mix created kind of like this own like a subculture of like Mexican Americans in that area, because a lot of when I sing corridos, I still do like R&B runs and I still do soul runs. So it's cool to have those two influences.
Jamás tuve esperanza, me pegó la bala sin tu calor. Me acuerdo de antes, tiene otras amantes, me da dolor. Tú no sabes tanto que yo haría, tocarte las manitas debajo del cielo. Algo importante quiero mostrarte, quizás no tengo el valor. Arrancaste todo que quedaba por razones que no aceptaba. Cariño, yo fui buen amante. En el olvido quiero dejarte.
This is Cultural Manifesto, and I'm Kyle Long. If you're just tuning in, we're listening back to my 2024 interview with Omar Apollo. Let's return to our conversation. You mentioned the discrimination you saw growing up against your family. I did, before we go, want to ask about what's happening today in America. The God Said No tour is happening against the backdrop of a very tense presidential race. One of the candidates has built his reputation on demonizing and lying about immigrants. He's now threatening mass deportation. Indiana is home to over 100,000 undocumented immigrants who have really built our cities up economically and culturally. They've made such an important contribution to our state. How do you feel as a Mexican American, as a son of an immigrant family, how do you feel about the language that's being used right now and the hateful rhetoric that's being normalized by this presidential candidate?
Well, first of all, thank you for giving visibility to all the Mexicans in Indiana, because there's a lot. And they did, the importance is, it's very beautiful to be recognized for that. Especially like knowing how much my parents have worked and had to, to give me any type of thoughts outside of survival. Like even the fact that I was able to become an artist is because of them, having two jobs, working 16-hour days, and both of them. So like 4 jobs total, and me not seeing them until 11, and then they wake up at 6 and do the same thing for 20 years. Just so I can, live outside of, this ideation of having to work to survive. So, I'm very grateful for that, for you saying that. Thank you. I appreciate it. But, as far as the hate, that's something that we've always had. I grew up almost desensitized to slurs. I didn't even learn them. My parents didn't teach me them. I'd be in school and people would call me this, that, the third. And I didn't even know what it was. I was like so unfamiliar. I was just oblivious. I was a child. And I'd go home and be like, someone called me this, and they're like, my mom wouldn't know either. Like they wouldn't know what it was. And it wasn't until I got into high school until someone told me like, you're gonna let him call you that? And I was like, well, what does it mean? And then he said it because you're Mexican. I was like, oh, that's why he wants me to cut his grass. I was just so confused. And so the what's going on, with Trump and things like that. It's depressing. We've all I've said I can't, stop all this shit, but I'm not a politician. I'm not, but I know that I'm inherently political, just by being a queer Mexican, and I'm here and I'm come from immigrant parents, and I'm giving visibility to that community. So I hope that, that could lift some of the the things that are being said and untrue, and just like hateful, honestly. Yeah. And, my mom and dad have always tried to protect me from those things when I was younger. They'd be like, hey, you look a little different at school. They're going to be doing this. And, they might, judge you for this or that, or, how dark you get in the summer. Like, they're going to ask you, like, why are you, or whatever, I remember I used to get told by out of protection, which is, it's sad, but like, I would get like other moms and my moms, like other Mexican families, just be like, you should like stay out of the sun. Like, don't go out in the sun too much so you don't get like too dark, because of how we would be treated, and that was, a real like wake up call, and it's always just something I've always dealt with. It's been reality forever. So that my brothers deal with, my sister deals with, and her kids are dealing with. And so, yeah, it's just, I think just bringing awareness and speaking about it is helping. And yeah, just continue to exist in the way that we do. And that is going to ultimately benefit everything. But yeah.
Yeah. And let me just say that there is a huge scene of Mexican Americans and Mexicans in Indiana making music, and your rise into the mainstream of popular music has really been a validation of their efforts here. So it has huge importance to that community and to me as a music fan and as an ally to that community. The work you're doing, just beyond its artistic merit, has a deeply significant cultural value here. So thank you for everything you've done as an artist. I appreciate it. I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. I'm excited to share that Cultural Manifesto can now be heard across Northwest Indiana. You can listen every Wednesday evening at 8 and Saturday afternoons at 3 on 89.1. To celebrate, we're listening back to my conversations with two of the region's most critically acclaimed musicians. We just heard an excerpt of my 2024 interview with Hobart, Indiana's Omar Apollo. Up next, we'll listen back to my 2025 conversation with the Gary, Indiana composer and electronic music producer, Jlin. Born Jlin Patton in 1987, Jlin is an acclaimed electronic music producer and composer from Gary, Indiana. Her bold, genre-defying work has reshaped the landscape of experimental electronic music. Jlin's rhythmically dense and emotionally intense style emerged from footwork, a high-speed dance music rooted in the underground culture of Chicago. But Jlin's sound evolved over time, becoming an unmistakably original voice that transcends categorization. Jlin rose to prominence with her 2015 debut album, Dark Energy. The album was immediately hailed as a landmark in contemporary electronic music. Both The Quietus and The Wire named it Album of the Year, and Pitchfork included Dark Energy in its top 20 albums of 2015. Jlin's latest album, Acoma, has also garnered widespread critical acclaim and features high-profile collaborations with musicians including Bjork and Philip Glass. Beyond her solo releases, Jlin's influence has expanded into the worlds of dance, classical music, and performance art. She's composed for the world-renowned Kronos Quartet, and her music has been used by choreographers including Wayne McGregor and Kyle Abraham. Despite her international recognition, Jlin has remained firmly rooted in her hometown, Gary, Indiana. Let's join our conversation as we discuss a formative musical experience during her early life in Gary. Jlin, I'm really obsessed with the music history of Indiana, and that's a big part of the work I do at this radio station. And there was something I read about you that I have to ask about. I read that as a young person, I don't know if you were a child, teenager, but as a young person, you studied drumming with Johnny Jackson, who was the original drummer of the Jackson 5, a cousin of the Michael and his brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, I know rhythm and percussion is such a huge component of your sound. Tell me about meeting Johnny Jackson and how working with him kind of influenced you as a musician.
When I got to see Johnny play live the first time, I'll never forget. My neighbor, they were in a band together called White Dove, and Johnny was the drummer. And Johnny used to come over to my neighbor's house all the time, and I was watching Johnny warm up one day. I was astounded. I have never seen a person. He was going from like Earth, Wind and Fire to like Teddy Pendergrass to like Marvin Gaye. He was just playing without stopping. Like, most people kind of like, you got to stop because the rhythm changes or the beat changes, the tempo changes. Not Johnny. Johnny could play that all the way through like it was like one song. And so I was just standing there, just mesmerized, watching him play. And so then finally one day, my mom told me to go get the mail, and she saw me looking at Johnny, and she said, "Why don't you go over there and just ask him, can he teach you how to play drums?" Because she kind of knew. I never said anything to my mom, but she was watching me watch him and be, fascinated with him. So she said, "Why don't you go over there and ask him?" Not to mention, he used to be my mother's neighbor. When he had come back home from playing with the Jackson 5. So when I went over to the mailbox to go get the mail, I just kind of went over there and asked him, and he said, "Yeah, I'll teach you how to play drum." And so he gave me my first pair of sticks, and then he started teaching me, but we only got like a good 2 or 3 lessons in because shortly after that he was killed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing you have such a direct connection to the music history of Gary. Gary has really a mind-blowing music legacy from...
Yeah, it does. It's quite lush.
Yeah, from the Jacksons to VJ Records and all the R&B music in the 50s to all the Eastern European, Serbian folk music. How much of that has influenced you over the span of your life?
Actually, none of it.
None of it? Yeah.
No, not even. Not even. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. It's a beautiful thing. Like, of course, everybody knows about the Jackson 5 and Gary, but that wasn't. I don't even think I would consider that an influence. I just think that was, and it's no disrespect to them, of course, whatsoever. It's just, I feel like this was just a gift that was given to me. So it would have flowed. It would have, it would be fluid anyway.
Totally. I appreciate your honesty.
No, I mean, and I don't mean, I mean that in the most non-disrespectful way. Of course, I love the Jacksons' music. Are you kidding? Of course. But I wouldn't say that it influenced my sound.
You have such a unique and individual sound. And there's some things I've learned about you that I think help me better understand maybe your music and your process as a composer. One of those things is that you were a math student at Purdue University. You have a love of math. Is there any connection between your interest in math and your work as a composer and producer?
Yeah, but I think it's not the connection that most, I mean, of course, music and math are very much one and the same language, but I think for me, when I was in high school, I used to use math as an scapegoat because I was getting bullied in high school, and I used to hide in math because I just felt like it was such an escape for me. I could just go in my own mind and just kind of hide there with math, and it gave me peace. when I would be solving problems. So music became the same thing when I was in college, when I was at Purdue, because I didn't like my major. I didn't like, I just I didn't like the school environment, just everything about it. It just didn't work well for me, which is funny because I teach in universities all the time.
Mm.
But I think back then, when you don't know what direction you want to go in and you feel overwhelmed, and because, I had been bullied and it was, I didn't have any confidence. So I felt I had no direction. I didn't think I was good at anything. So I just felt like everybody was just kind of passing me by. I was just standing still, So I turned to music. I turned to FL Studio. And that's where where I write to this day at. And I used to go in the library and teach myself, music. And at that time, I always tell a person, like I tell people, I said I was running away from myself, and I realized I was actually running to myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Another thing I learned about you that was really interesting is that Igor Stravinsky is a big inspiration to you.
Yes.
To me, that made a lot of sense because his music is very rhythmically complex. There's dissonances in his music, but it's also very refined, very clean, very graceful. I'm curious how Stravinsky has been an inspiration on you and what you take away from his life and art.
Yeah. So for Stravinsky, for me, is his meticulousness that I can't get it out only because I'm tired. But his music is so layered. But I love the way Stravinsky taught me how to listen. And what I mean by that is I don't know if they still have them up now because I went and looked for them recently and I've only seen maybe one or two of them. But when I was first started making music, there was like, YouTube used to have so many jewels, but that they don't have now. Of course, they've had to take them down. But they used to have him in rehearsal. And what he used to do was, like when he would have to have, a whole orchestra. So it's just 88 people in the room, for example. The first day takes him 12 hours. And all he's doing that whole first day is listening to everybody's instruments to get them in tune. So he's not even starting the song. So 88 people is a lot. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you're as the conductor, you're going against ear fatigue and everything else, right? So he's going around listening to every instrument, tuning how he feels that it should sound. And to me, that just was so inspirational that it changed my way of like how I listen to things and how I approach, things. And because I'm an intuitive, because I can't read music, I rely totally on my intuition and feeling. But I also feel like it puts me at the advantage point because it also allows me imagination and innovativeness where I can move fluidly without the restriction of right and wrong.
And Jlin, from what I know about your life, family has also been a huge, huge influence on you and your work. Your most recent album, A Coma, had a lovely dedication to your grandmother and your parents. Your mom sounds like a really extraordinary person. She had a successful 9-to-5 job, but I believe she's also a self-published author, an entrepreneur. Sounds like a very creative person. Tell me about the influence of your parents and your family in your life and work.
So, yeah, like my mom, she graduated from Spelman. And she also born and raised in Gary and graduated from Roosevelt High School. And then, like I said, went to Spelman, graduated from there. Very prestigious HBCU, still is. And she is structured, but she wasn't strict. So she used to actually allow me to exercise like what I was interested in. And I didn't know I was interested in music at that time, like, being young. I didn't discover that until later. But like I said, like it was just, she worked a lot for sure. Like she worked like the first 8 years of my like schooling. So from kindergarten to 8th grade, from to 7th grade, because she retired when I was in 8th grade. But she worked a lot. So my 8th grade year, she made up for all of the time like that she missed because she was always in the East Coast working. She was between New Jersey and New York, always in meetings, always traveling. And then she worked in Chicago at Nabisco at the time. So we're very close. So as I got older, she would, she allowed me to move within a certain terrain of those, the boundaries of practicing, integrity, my character, my morale, my spirituality. So it's very, I was raised up in that. And Gary is also a very very family oriented town anyway. So if everybody knows everybody, so, and even if you don't know a person, you know somebody who knows that person. I grew up in a town like that. And then my father, who has a very quiet spirit, perfect balance with my mother, she's a fire sign like me, but she's more of a fire, and my father's more is Pisces, water. So it was like an even balance. So I grew up in a very and my dad, he very, he's, very like patient with me and just, allowing me to also express, and also a very big music lover like my mother was. So I grew up in the house listening to music and like all my life. Like my father loves jazz and he loved Cuban and Latino percussion. And then my mother listened to everything. So my mom could go from Boy George to Phoebe Snow real fast. So I had a very just a variety of just music like all the time.
One final influence I wanted to ask you about. I have to ask you about the iconic footwork music producer, DJ Rashad. He was born in Hammond, Indiana in 1979 and died tragically young in 2014. I had a chance to interview DJ Rashad many years ago, and I found him to just be a very kind and generous person.
Yes.
Yeah, you've referred to him as an early mentor in your music journey. Yes. Is that right? Tell us about your connection to DJ Rashad.
So when I started making music at the end of 2007, early 2008, and I knew that this was the direction I wanted to go in, and DJ Rashad was on, I reached out to him on MySpace at the time because he had done this track I love called Flash, the remix of Kanye Ye's track Flashing Lights at the time. And I loved his version of it. And I fell in love with it. And so I reached out to him and he said, yeah, he said, hey, give me a call. I told him I wanted to start making, footwork tracks. And he's like, yeah, give me a call. So I remember getting on the phone with him. He was at work at the time, so he hadn't taken on music full time just yet. So we're on the phone and I just, I introduced myself and I said, I really love your work and I really, I want to get into doing this, but I don't know, how do I go about this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I was just like, what do I do? And so he told me, he said, the first thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to go out and buy a whole bunch of equipment. He said, because I know some musicians who have the best equipment and sound like shit. And I know some who have the worst of the worst kicking everybody's ass. He said, it's not the equipment, it's you. And that stuck with me really heavy. And so when he said that, I immediately was like, that resonated with me because it's like, it's not the equipment. It's always you. Everything is your in coming out. So, and that just stuck with me. And from that point, so I would send him like things I would be working on. And he used to always say, he would hear my stuff and he's just like, oh man, sis, he said, they gonna have to watch out for you when you come, he said, cause he heard me early. And he could hear the potential. He said, "Oh yeah." He's like, "You gonna cause a problem when you start making music." And of course he meant that in a good way. But and it just, I wish he could have still been around to see where I'm at now. And so I could thank him and tell him, he really just his guidance really just has resonated with my spirit throughout the years.
That's amazing. I love to hear that. What was it about the footwork sound? I mean, it's such a unique style of music that has captivated people all around the world. It's, there's a huge scene in Japan and all over Europe. What was it about the music that grabbed you? I mean, you didn't grow up in Chicago where it was, centered at the time.
I think it was something that just resonated in my spirit. And I honestly think it was really it was a lot of things. It was the dance but also went along with the percussion, as being, of African descent. We are such a paradox as a people. And I'm learning that more and more every day, because the tighter the box you put Black people in, the more they do. You can never squeeze them out. They are never created. They're never destroyed, ever. It was just energy. So when and that's, I'm out. If I ever came back again, I every time, if I ever got, came back, just kept coming back, I'd always want to be Black. Always. Because we are natural creators, and our first vibration, our natural state is really love. And all of that comes out through all the art we create. So again, you put this thing in a place of where you dropped into survival, you dropped into a space, that's why I love this project so much. I was so gravitated to it, because it very much reminds me, like, I see, I feel us all the time. Like, this is what we do. And a lot of times, to me, I mean, I would hate us too. If this is every time, it's like, God, every time we put y'all in a box, y'all bust out 5 times more. Look at Simone Biles. The list goes on and on. It doesn't matter how much you box us, we always bust out. So for me, it's an honor to be Black. But to answer your question, we just be the Chicago sound. Like, I was very gravitated to it because I hear all that ancestral is modernized, but there's nothing new under the sun. All of that ancestral, from the dance to the music, is very tribal. It's a spiritual thing that's happening. When you get to experience footwork, when you get to experience the music, when you get to experience the culture, and that's Black culture in general, it's always a spiritual experience happening. Even when you think it's negative, it's just, that's a cry out from being in a space where, and I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that the negative connotations are right, but what I am saying is that it is an expression of being in a space, or having been in a space where you either have been taking something you've been robbed of something, or you've been put in a space that you are absolutely not supposed to make it out of. And I feel like society's biggest thing is, damn, how dare you thrive? How dare you thrive in a space that was meant to destroy you? You can't destroy us. We're never created and never destroyed. That's just what it is.
I'm Kyle Long, and you're listening to Cultural Manifesto. If you're just tuning in, my guest is the Gary, Indiana composer and electronic music producer, Jlin. Let's return to our conversation. You're one of the few electronic music producers whose work has been embraced by the classical music world. You've worked extensively with major new music and classical ensembles like Kronos Quartet and Third Coast Percussion. Your latest album features a collaboration with Philip Glass. Last year, Kronos did a couple gigs here in Indiana, and I spoke with David Harrington. They were playing your pieces on their 50th anniversary tour. David was raving about you as a composer. Tell me about your work collaborating with people in the classical music world. I mean, you're not... you don't notate music in the way that would traditionally be done in that genre. Tell me about working in that world. Is it something you enjoy?
I love it. Yeah. All the music is related. They're all related. They're not separate. They never have been. There's the illusion. None of the arts, none of the music, especially all these different genres you hear, none of them are separate. They're all related. That's the illusion, which is why people, I'm actually more fascinated when people ask me, so what is it like being on that other side of the world? And I'm like, being on what other side of the world? They're very related. When I hear a classical violin, I hear trap music, I hear R&B music, I hear country music, they're all relatable. Like, then none of this is separate. It's all, I understand genre for reference sake, but as far as, they're these separate entity worlds, no, not at all. They're all in the same cosmic plane, all of them. They're no different. They're all related cousins and siblings, and you got brothers and sisters mixed with cousins in there. It's very, so how I, like for me, I don't find it to be like I'm jumping or I have to adjust like this because I'm moving in classical, or I have to adjust like this because this is electronic dance, or I have to adjust like this because this is meditative. Like, no, they're all one world because they all require the same life force. So it's about, yes, I have a versatility. Yes, I know how to adapt, but I don't have to change because my signature is my growth. So I don't have to change. I love working in all aspects, whether it's classical, whether it's electronic dance, whether it's tribal or whatever, R&B, whatever it is. Like, I feel like if I can, I feel I understand what Bruce Lee meant. Be water, my friend. If I can touch it, I can adapt to it. That's just the way I've always kind of come in. That took a process of trusting myself. But that took years, and that's not a 1-time, 2-time, 10-time thing. That's a constant evolution of having to relearn to trust yourself over and over and over and over again, and be vulnerable about it. And then people then experience that openly, publicly, all the time. And some people don't like, some people hate it. How dare you come in and mix this, we've had it this way for all these years, and how dare you come in and disrupt? Well, I'm only there to disrupt the illusion, and the illusion is that they're separate. They're not. That's all I'm here to do. They've always been together. They've always been one family. All these genres have been one family. One came out of the birth of the other, the derivative of the derivative of the derivative of the derivative, and this will continue happening. There really is nothing new under the sun.
One last thing before we go, because people will kill me if I don't ask you about this. Your last album featured a collaboration with Bjork. She's a hero to so many people. What's it like working with her? What's your relationship with her? And is there more collaborations coming in the future?
Bjork is a beautiful person. So is, of course, so is Philip. So that, and Kronos. Bjork, and I've worked with Bjork before. I did her remix. I remixed for her before. I think it was 2017 or 18. And then, working with Bjork is very, she's such a down to earth person, like, I think a lot of time, we kind of, when we look at things, or when we talk about people, I feel like a lot of times, and I don't mean to say this, we've become such an idol to worship thing that we don't see people as human. We put them on a pedestal that it's not realistic. You know what I mean? So when I got to work with Bjork, it was such a and as much as a pioneer as she is, but she's such a down to earth person, which is why I love to work. I do love to work with her, because when we're having a conversation, she's not the Bjork that everybody else sees her as, and I'm not the Jlin that everybody sees me as. We are two artists raw having a conversation. We are two artists raw trying to come up with a plan for a piece, or just real conversations. And I feel like that makes the best work. because it's coming from a raw state. It's coming from a raw, organic place.
I can't thank you enough for taking time to do this. I know you're super busy right now, as you always are. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle.
That's all the time we have for this week. Thank you to my guests, Omar Apollo and Jlin. If you appreciate the arts and culture programming you hear on this station, please consider making a donation now at WFYI.org/give. And check out the Cultural Manifesto podcast at WFYI.org or wherever you listen to podcasts. Cultural Manifesto is hosted and produced by me, Kyle Long. Our podcast is edited by Holly Summers, and our radio director at WFYI is Roxana Caldwell. Thank you for listening.